After e4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, we're still going to the main line, f4 and d5 now. So we have to take the pawn in d5, at least according to the repertoire I'm offering. And after black plays the move e4, this is the follow-up of the very previous video. Make sure you check that out before you watch this one. Now white continues with the check, bishop b5 check. And we went through, in the previous videos, we went through bishop d7, and bishop takes, and then knight takes back, queen takes back, all of the different options. In this case, we're going to go through the one where black gives away a pawn. It's black basically gives another pawn away, but this is actually probably the best by black because it's the most aggressive. So white has to take the pawn, and white now has a 2 pawns advantage. However, black will take back immediately. So black could either take back with the pawn or with the knight. Let's go through black taking with the pawn first of all. Now white has to play bishop to c4. We've achieved what we wanted, which is basically 2 isolated pawns. And we don't need to keep this pin by going to a4. It's not a good move. Now, what white needs to do here is very simple. He just needs to neutralize any potential attack of the black player. The black players decided to sacrifice a pawn for development. Once that's done, you're going to endgame with higher chances. So after bishop to c5, okay, let's start with bishop to b4. Although bishop to c5 is a better move, and it's stopping the white player from castling. We'll see what to do. Anyway, after bishop to b4, white continues with a3 immediately. Yes, the reason is that we're really happy if black takes our bishop, because then we will have a majority. So if he takes and we take back with the d pawn, we don't care about the queen swap. We're happy to lose the right to castle because we've already achieved 1 pawn advantage, plus we have 4 pawns against 2, and we're going to be able to produce a pass pawn for sure. So let's, for example, if we go through this line, queen takes, king takes, and after knight g4 targeting f2, white simply plays king e1. There's nothing to worry here. White will go on with material advantage, majority on the queen side, and the bishop pair. It's a very easy endgame. Position is evaluated over like +2 more or less. So that's a lovely endgame to play. In this position, instead of taking the knight, if black goes back, then you simply go on with development. Now this knight here is not developed to e2 to protect the knight and safeguard the integrity of the pawn structure. It's just being developed because it has to be developed so you can castle. And basically, if black were to take the knight, he will still use the d pawn to take back. So after bishop to g4, pinning the knight, developing a piece, it looks like the black's position is not, there's nothing wrong with it. Instead, this speaks very loud in favor of white. White now simply attacks the bishop, and the bishop can't go backwards because then you'd play g4 and bishop g6 and f5, you trap the bishop, and going the way back wouldn't make any sense because you'd be able to keep pushing the side pawns. Bishop to d7 will stop the knight from developing because knight a6 is not possible due to our bishop. So after bishop takes knight, we are happy to develop another piece. We have double attack on e4 now. And if black castles, of course, now it's not convenient to take the pawn because you got rook e8 and it looks really bad. White's best move now is to castle, so then now we're actually threatening to take the pawn because then later we will be able to support the square e4 with the pawn in d3, which we weren't able to do for as long as we were with the king in e1, pinned by the dark square bishop. So right now, after bishop e6 check and king h1, white will inevitably win the pawn in e4, is going to winning endgame. Once again, bishop pair, extra pawn, what else can you ask for? And after rook to e8, for example, white plays the thematic g4. Here once again positions are evaluated around over +2. The idea here is to play g5, misplacing the black knight in f6, and then finally play knight takes e4. And even if black were to give extra protection to the square e4, white will then play rook e1, and now is ready to play g5. So back from the start, e4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, and then we play in the Vienna Gambit, d5, we take the pawn in d. Okay, so now black is playing this variation with the pawn going to e4. So bishop check, and now blocking with the pawn. We take, and after pawn takes back, bishop c4. So the best move here would be bishop c5, stopping us from castling. Surely better place than bishop b4, because bishop b4 isn't really doing anything. It's not threatening to take the knight, because we are happy if black takes our knight. White continues with d3. The idea is to swap stuff and simplify for the endgame. Castling now, for example, is not possible if black wants to go on with development, because then he will just take in e4, and there's no compensation at all. Even if queen takes, king takes, bishop g4 check, simply knight f3. Okay, we're up 2 pawns, and this development of the black player, the fact that the king is already castled, seems like it could produce some danger for white, but it really doesn't. At the moment, the position is evaluated over +4. So let's just go on a few moves. Let's say rook e8 to put more attack over e4. You play h3 attacking the bishop, and here you're threatening to trap it once again. So after bishop takes and pawn takes, It's all good. Development of the knight. Okay, then bishop d2, and after knight to b6 attacking the bishop, bishop to a6 is the best move. The idea is to make a simple fork. And after rook a to d8, king goes to c1. We're going to find a way to make him a bit safe, although we're not really in a rush. We're not too much worried. After knight to h5, even playing the best move for black, it's not going anywhere. White plays a4. The idea, of course, of pushing the pawn, and after knight g3 attacking the rook, rook to h2, threatening rook g2 winning the knight, because after knight goes back to the only other square, knight h5, then rook g5 forks 2 pieces, and the knight cannot really go to h1 because then it's ridiculous. Also because as soon as you get to open up the king, then the rook will be attacking the knight. So after rook h2, knight h5, let's just finish the line like this, knight e2 now, with the idea of playing b4. The position is evaluated around +5, so let's just go on a couple more moves. f5, white plays a5 attacking the knight, knight to c8, and now b4. It's just becoming a joke. And after bishop to f8, there were no other squares available. Bishop d6 would have just given us a tempo. White now play bishop c4 check, king h8, and after e5 we've got a pass pawn. Let's close the line here. After e4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, f4, d5, we take the pawn, and after e4, bishop check, c6, we take, and then take back, bishop c4. Okay, we're going through bishop c5. We played d3 here. So earlier we went through black castling. What happens after bishop g4 attacking the queen? Okay, knight g2, e2, only move. And now we'll just be able to play h3, g4, and so on. We've got nothing to worry. The knight in e2 is also protecting d4, so we'll be able to push the pawn in d, and then potentially castle longside. Let's just make sure to understand this variation doesn't work here, d3, because you simply play d4, and the bishop will be under attack for the same reason we just mentioned, and then we'll be able to take the pawn in e3, and white is 2 pawns up for no reason. So if black plays knight to d5, this looks like a threatening move because the knight is threatening to go to e3. It looks like really scary and anything, but you don't worry. Just go on and take the pawn in e4, attacking the knight. If knight takes your knight here, then you might argue that this is going to double up nicely the pawns, but you have a tempo move, so queen check, king takes, and then the knight can take back. What happens after knight to e3? As we mentioned, nothing to worry. There's nothing happening. Queen takes, king takes, and now bishop takes, and yes, we gave up the bishop pair, but after rook to f1, the position is evaluated +550 because we've traded everything into a winning endgame with 2 pawns up after all.